The Shark Deck.
Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The Hollywood Reporter caught up with Bert Kreischer about his new special, which drops on March 14th. They asked Bert, hey, you selected Omaha for your special. What factors into the decision of where to shoot? Bert said, it's a really interesting question. I don't think enough comics think enough about it. It's super, super simple. I want to go perform at a place that has not seen this hour, and I want to perform in a place where I can sell a ton of tickets. Comics will say, I was in Denver 2 weeks ago. They were cool. I'll just do Denver again. It'll be new people. No, it's your fans. You got to be really careful about making sure that you're showing them what you're showing the Netflix audience for the first time, so they respond in the same manner. That's why I'm hyper aware not to mention we're performing when I get on stage. I just get up and do the hour you'll see on TV. Another thing, if you're having trouble with tickets, you need somewhere that's got good local radio, and Omaha does. So glad you asked this question, because I think a lot of people just assume I chose Omaha because it's a red state, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that. The Hollywood Reporter followed up, said, I assume the laughs are slightly different in different places or in different volumes. He's moved across the country. Bert said, you'd be shocked, but my audience is identical no matter what country I'm in. They asked how he would characterize his fans. Bert said, big dudes with beards with wives that are hotter than they deserve. It's probably some sort of sports fan. They love beer. They probably love weed. They definitely love a good cigar. They have a big group of friends that they stay tight with. They're big podcast fans, and the majority of them aren't political. I actually have a buddy who's running for office in a place that I'm going to. He asked me to bring him up on stage, and I said, absolutely not. The audience would be like, did you just bring politics on stage? Did you really just bring up a politician? I don't care if you know him. Get the F out of here. These are party dudes, and they're looking to have a good time and probably some beer products. GQ asked Tom Segura, what are some of your vices? Tom said, this sounds like a BS vice, but I feel like something I'm constantly trying to address is sleep. My vice is that I want to stay up and keep watching stuff. I will not shut down unless I'm told to, or I start to listen to that voice that says, go to sleep. I think that's my biggest health challenge. I enjoy working out. Once you're eating healthy and you're getting rewarded by it, you don't hate it, but sleep isn't talked about as much, and it's so vital to longevity and recovery and all these things. People think of it as something that happens to them, but you have a role in that. My favorite indulgence is croissants, all types of croissants. First of all, if you go to just some coffee place and they're like, yeah, we have croissants, and you realize their package are dry, I don't like those. I like going to a proper bakery where they spend a day with the dough, and the next day is like proofing the dough, and it's like a 3-day process. That, to me, is the most incredible indulgence. I'll have plain chocolate, almond paste. I'll do the savory ones. You know, my favorite croissant is actually a cornetti, because the Italians call croissants cornettis. There's an Italian dude in L.A. with this place called Cinque Terre West Osteria, and he does that. He takes 3 days to make an effing croissant, and you eat one, and you feel like your life has changed. I would go there and buy them and leave with a pizza box full of croissants. I found a couple of really good ones in Austin where I live now. But whenever somebody tells me about a place that has amazing croissants, this light goes off in my head that I can't ignore. It's too tempting. It's my favorite indulgence and the hardest thing to ignore. Bert Kreischer is tempted by booze, I guess. For me, it's sugar and butter. ThePitchKC.com. Talked to Brian Posehn, asked him, hey, what was the best metal album of 2022? Brian said, I'll get the title wrong, but the last Amon Amarth has really kind of grown on me. Their newest record, it's kind of their most commercial, which normally wouldn't be something I would love. I used to be the kind of metalhead that got mad when a band made a commercial record. But with them, it's just really cool to see death metal. I saw them at the Forum. It's nice to see people selling records in that style of music. Were there any bands that got you through the pandemic? Brian said, I watched a couple people doing pandemic shows in a studio. I love that. One of my favorite things was the drummer for Anthrax was just recording himself. He'd play guitar and drums and send it to somebody else. These covers he wound up doing with other musicians were the coolest things I saw. He did a Rush cover that blew my mind. Brian, how did you spend the pandemic? Well, I talk about it in my act. I freaked out at first, you know. You kind of find out it wasn't very essential for comedians to run around the country because it shut down right away. So I had 2 years off. I watched a lot of TV. I've always been a movie guy, and I do watch the same movies hundreds of times. First couple of months, I also did all the Legos that we have in our garage that hadn't been opened. Big Lego sets that I'd gotten for my son that we hadn't gotten around to. We blew through all those. My wife was playing tennis every day, and I was just hermiting using a lot of food delivery app. I never wanted to tell anybody. I actually had a pretty good COVID, you know? My pandemic was great. I feel guilty about it because we had a couple scares, you know, kids and family members we know got sick, and that's not good, but everybody was okay. For us, I already like my family, and we spent a lot of time together. I think it was good. My dog loves me more than ever because I never left the house. Brian Posehn, what are your comfort movies? Oh, anything old 80s horror, you know, Monster Squad. I believe Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but I also screen it all year long. Not a lot of TV outside The Simpsons, but a ton of movies. What kind of material did you write during lockdown? I was about to record a special before COVID, and I threw a whole hour away. No one will ever see it because it didn't mean anything, you know? I didn't love that I did a whole 20 minutes about the pandemic and my response to it. But it's natural. I like my bits to come from a real place, and it was me responding to it. It would have been weird to do a special where you don't mention the elephant in the room, you know? I mean, I had gained 100 pounds through it, so I feel like I kind of had to mention that. If you like what I do here, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. You can throw a couple bucks in the tip jar. I will take your money, and I will drive to the National Donuts chain. There, I will pick up my order that I've pre-ordered on the app. It is most likely to be a large iced coffee with caramel and almond milk. Yeah, I'm trying to get off the dairy. It's just making me sleepy, and the almond milk is really helping me out. So buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Let's hit the Vancouver Comedy Festival tonight. Jack Whitehall at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, Jack? All right. Jack's got another show at 7. So does Dan Soder. Patton Oswalt at 7. Ari Shafir at 9:30. Boy, what a great lineup tonight, huh? Fun and Slutty, a night with Jonathan Van Ness at 9:30. Sophie Buttle at 9:30. Comedy Pants at 10. Crowd Work in the Round at 10:30. Jack Whitehall again at 11:30. All right, I've been dragging you to like local shows for the bulk of the 2 weeks. Tonight, I think we do headliners. We might as well go see Jack Whitehall at 4 o'clock. 7 o'clock. You want to see Soder or you want to see Patton? That's tough. Really like Patton. He's at the Queen Elizabeth Theater. Let's go see Dan Soder at the Rio. Just got a hunch here. 9:30, let's do Ari Shafir. And then at 10:30, if we can catch the back end of the Crowd Work in the Round, I think we will have a very, very full night of comedy, and we will be quite tired, and I will be very cranky about let's get back to the hotel. I'm sleepy after that Crowd Work show. The Brisbane Comedy Festival is coming up April 28th through May 29th, Brisbane, Australia. 350 plus gigs by more than 110 comedians across 5 weeks. You guys should invite me. I could tell my wife I'm hanging out in Australia for 5 weeks. I got to record the podcast. Returning favorites and first-timers alike, David O'Doherty, Danny Boy, Mickey Bartlett, Ed Byrne, Ed Gamble, Sarah Pesco, Chris Parker, Ross Noble, Jason Manford, Jason Long, Daniel Kitson, Alfie Brown. And in Toronto, they recently hosted the Underground Comedy Railroad Show at Toronto's Comedy Bar. The Underground Comedy Railroad Show is the first and only all-black Canadian comedy tour for the last 11 years, has had Canadians giggling from Halifax to Ottawa. Daniel Woodrow is creator and host. He said, we created the show because the end of the Underground Railroad was in Canada. And we joke we're bringing the Underground Comedy Railroad across Canada to cities and towns that don't normally have black or ethnic comedians at all. Headliner Tamara Chevon told a crowd of about 100 people, I don't know if you know a lot about Scotland. The castles are not enough to make you want to stay. Scotland, in my opinion, is UK Detroit. Woodrow said, we use this tour to bring opportunities to unknown black comedians. We have a completely unique story that's different from each other. Every comic is not the same. And are you ready for it? Cannibal Comedian? This from bloody-disgusting.com, your home for comedy news. This is an upcoming horror comedy film. In Cannibal Comedian, we follow a psychopathic cannibal fed up with his lack of ambition who tries to try his hand at stand-up comedy in an attempt to satisfy his appetite for normalcy. Set in the modern-day American West, the film pairs dark, over-the-top humor and rampaging horror at full throttle. Cannibal Comedy is a love letter to stand-up comedy and horror films such as The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, then. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow. Did you hear about the Border Collie who recycles trash when he's out on his walks? Or how about the bear that stole someone's Chick-fil-A, but good news, left the salad behind? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. Don't worry, I have stories about humans too, like there's a woman who makes a living because she looks like Jim Carrey. It's my podcast. It's 5 Good News Stories. 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories. Twice a week. 5 Good News Stories. Oh, and Shamrock Shakes are back too. Good news. 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your shows.